French Canadian out of Quebec. My grandparents on my dad's side were French. Grandma's maiden name was Marcotte, and dad's, of course, was Cyrier. It's been about 5 generations before they came to northern Illinois. Then there's some that went to the Abilene, Kansas area. You'll still see a few in the phone books in that area. But they were dirt farmers in northern Illinois, just south of Chicago. My dad was the youngest of 8 kids on the farm, and so my grandparents were relatively older in age than some folks. But I do remember them speaking French when I was in the home, when my brothers and folks would go for a visit in the summers, and if there was something that wasn't supposed to be heard by young ears, it immediately went to French. Grandpa and Grandma were pretty well retired by the time I got there. In fact, my dad, his senior year in high school, Grandpa got allergic to corn. And in northern Illinois, in the Corn Belt, that's not a good thing to happen. And in doing so, Grandpa and Grandma moved into the city, and Dad and a few of his brothers that had moved off onto their own farms would come back and help Dad farm that one year. My grandmother's father was the banker in town. My grandfather was a local person there in the community, and he had a 4th grade education. So when my dad went to college, it was awful difficult for him to get Grandpa's approval, considering he already had a high school education. My dad was, like as I said, the youngest of 8 kids on the farm, and he soon found out that he didn't want to be a farmer all his life. So he enlisted the Marines, and after his 18th birthday in June, and went through boot camp, and then got to go to Korea in 51, 52, and 53, and stayed there. And when he got out, then got to utilize the GI Bill, and went to my grandfather at the time and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to Southern Illinois University and utilizing the GI Bill with a couple of guys that grew up around here, and get a college education." And of course, Grandpa, with a 4th grade education, said, "Why in the world would you want to go get a college education when you can have this, the farm?" And so off he went, with no help financially from Grandpa. So Dad drove the ambulance and worked at a truck stop and anything else that he could do to finish up the college where the GI Bill didn't fulfill the financial needs that he needed. Funny story about Dad when he was in Korea. After the war, they were dividing up what positions or what jobs guys would do. Would they work in the motor pool? Would they be a cook? Would they be a guard sentry or what have you? And this colonel walks out onto a kind of a stage under in a large building or a large tent. There were 200 or 300 people in there waiting their assignments. And they called my dad's name the first name. And of course, Dad's wondering, because I'm not the beginning of the alphabet and I'm not the end of the alphabet. And I only have one stripe, so why am I being called? So he went back to the back with that colonel, and he showed him a clipboard, and he goes, "Do you know such and such or so-and-so from Kankakee, Illinois?" He goes, "Oh yeah, that was my best buddy, growing up." "Well, that's my nephew. And he told me to look you up when I'm here," and he handed him the clipboard and said, "Take your pick." So Dad went down through the list, and he was in charge of the base exchange. So got into retail real early. Mom was raised in Mascoutah, Illinois, Southern Illinois, and she went through high school there at Mascoutah High School. I think graduated with about 53 folks, and then also went to Southern Illinois University, and that is where they met. Dad was a business major, and Mom was a home ec major. And as a kid, that was really neat because Mom, and as a stay-at-home mom, we always had 3 squares a day, and had all the meals all planned out, and so Mom did sewing if we needed the jeans fixed or anything of that nature, and so it was just like you read about in in the old books and seeing the movies. Mom stayed home, the kids went outside and played, and Dad worked. As a youngster, I would ask my dad, what was it like growing up on the farm? And he said they were extremely poor because it was right during the middle of the Depression. He didn't know that jeans didn't come with patches on their knees. They thought they came from the store like that way. He would talk about the other kids in the school and in the area were the same way. I would ask him if there were any pressures or any concerns. Just a little bit about the rain and what have you, but for the most part, they didn't know what was going on the other side of the world, let alone what was going on down the street, because the communication isn't what it is today. The phones and the Facebook and the social media out there to let us know where everybody's eating, where everybody's working out, and what's going on with their life. My mom's parents were German descent, and one was a Knipp on my grandmother's side, and the other was a Stein. They resided in Mascoutah, Illinois, which is in southern Illinois, right next to Scott Air Force Base there in Belleville. That was the closest in town, and then probably about 20 miles east of St. Louis. Grandpa was the general manager of a small Ford dealership in town. Grandma was a housewife, then later on in life worked at the local dentist office there in town. And throughout the years, Grandpa was involved in the school board. He at one time was the president of the school board, but that also involved driving the bus and picking up the kids and dropping them off in the afternoon. So things have changed a little bit since that time. In 1972, in August of 1972, we moved to Texas. I had a friend of mine back in Cincinnati, which is where we moved from, that was from Dallas, Texas, and asked him what it was like, because I thought it was just hot desert prairie and what have you. And the only thing anybody talked about was Dallas Cowboys. We moved on Circle View South here in the Mayfair Edition. And I remember getting here in August in the middle of a heat wave when it was 103, 104 degrees. And my brothers and I would just come out till about 10 o'clock in the morning and then go hibernate till about 6 o'clock in the evening because the temperatures were so high. Here in Texas, the fourth boy in the family, Brother John, was born here. Brother Greg was born in Cincinnati. My brother Jeff, who I work with at the store, was born in Kankakee, Illinois, and myself in East Chicago, Indiana. All four boys were born in a different state. No sisters in the group. For fun, as a youngster, we would go to the New Chisholm Park there north of us. We'd get on our bikes and ride them past the corrals that were there off of Cannon, horse corrals, and then go to the pond where my brother and I would fish for catfish, usually during the summer months. Another enjoyable memory was going to Smith and Barfield Park, which is down behind what we have the In-N-Out Burger today, and that gave us the opportunity to chase foul balls after the baseball games, and if you returned the foul ball, you got a snow cone. So that was a big deal for us to have that opportunity. There was a local Boy Scout troop that we joined as youngsters, Troop 508, and that gave us a new in for meeting new friends and being able to run around with kids our own age. Quick story: we had one guy took a rock and put it in a guy's backpack while he wasn't looking, as we were on the walk on the trail, and he just picked him out at random because he was in front of him. And so every time we'd stop to get a drink or whatever, somebody would distract him, and somebody'd put another rock in his back of his backpack. And we got towards the end, and somebody wanted to put like a boulder like this in the back end, and they were putting it in, and he found out what was going on, and he threw the backpack off, and I guess he stripped out about 10, 15 pounds of rocks that were in that thing. But we were young kids. Those same kids that we were in the troop with were also involved with us in playing Little League ball, and our local classmates at Shady Oaks Elementary. In fact, that's where the troop met, was at the church that's between Shady Oaks Elementary and Airport Freeway. I was able to reach the rank of an Eagle Scout there with the troop, and for my Eagle Scout project, I planted grass in the picnic area up at Chisholm Park back in 1974. That was what I was asked to do upon from the city for an Eagle Scout project that they had. When we moved into the area, Baker's Brothers Nursery was had just closed, and so there were still from Circle View north, and then north from there up to the corner of Harwood and Norwood was an open area. It was much larger before, but they'd sold off some for lots. But that was an old nursery, and my brother and I, we used to go shoot rabbits. We'd get on our bicycles, ride down 4 or 5 blocks with a BB gun under our arm, and nobody said a word. But that was, 40 years ago. Probably would get a little bit more concern from folks today. And my brother ran actually a trap line down through the creek there that I went out a couple of times with him and trapped for pelts and sell those locally. But that was from my dad. My dad was being born and raised on the farm. He trapped as a kid for earning money, and also did a lot of hunting and fishing, and instilled that in us as kids. I remember as a kid, my brother Jeff and I, there in Indiana, where we had a cabin, we had tore down another cabin that was being condemned for a reservoir that was being put in, and our job was to straighten nails. So we would go out to the farm, pull nails out of boards all day long, straighten the nails, put them in different size containers, usually coffee cans, and then stack the boards accordingly to the length and the size and the width. I remember going to a hardware store when we were putting the rafters on, and my dad stopped and bought 2 boxes of nails that actually came, and they were brand new. We didn't have to straighten them. So that was a unique experience to a 8-year-old to see that. That was quite interesting. I was asking Dad, I said, well, Dad, why don't we just buy nails? But I think it wasn't so much a money savings as something to do with the 2 kids to go over there and straighten nails and get out of his hair while we worked on the cabin. Different time back when I was a kid, and that's one thing I've talked to my kids about, and it's a shame. They'll never experience what I had as a child. If your kid's going just 3 houses down, you're out the front door looking to see if they made it in the front door. And back when we were a kid, you'd go to the park and fish. If there was just one of you, you'd go out and throw the ball off the roof or skip it off the wall. You'd go out and play small sandlot games with your friends. But Mom would look at her watch and tell you at 6:30 you need to be back home because that's when we're eating. And if you got out of line, there was always a neighbor mom to grab you by the collar and haul you back home, and you got what you were deserving. Everybody knew everybody. There was a lot of kids in the area, and everybody was outside. Everybody mowed their own grass. Everybody changed their own oil. Everybody painted their own house. So there was, just like everywhere else in America, everybody was involved with the community. I grew up enjoying playing baseball, and if there was just one of us, I'd bounce the ball off the wall or throw it up on the roof and catch flies. I did that for a while until my dad said that it's a wood roof and he didn't like me breaking up the shingles, so I had to find somewhere else to do that. If you had 2 people, you just played catch, or you threw high pops or threw grounders. 3, you did a game of hot box where you get somebody in a rundown. If you had 4, then you'd play a game called flies and skinners, where you would hit the ball in the air or on the ground, and that would determine how many points you got or lost if you dropped the ball. When you got to 5, then we'd play a game. You'd take pitcher's mound out, and anything hit the right field was going to be an out. So we can keep the game organized to one side of the field. So you had to be a little bit creative. It was always better to have more guys to go play, but if you didn't, then you had to make fun for yourself because mom had sent you out of the house. Growing up and going to the local elementary school, which is also the same schools that my children go to or did go to, both elementary, junior high, and high school, was really enjoyable. I came from Cincinnati, so that 6th grade year was maybe a little bit awkward. A kid moving down from the north down to the south, and things were just a little bit different on family structure and what kids did after school and what have you, and how they dressed, how they talked. But I got involved in sports at that time. Went through the junior high sports. Sports were a big, important thing for me. Played a little football, played baseball. I was more geared to enjoying my time behind the plate than I was on the football field. And in fact, during off season, my sophomore year, I broke my finger right before the baseball tryouts, and I had to kind of wrap my hand around the bat to hold it, and then every time I picked up a ball, it would push on that finger. But the baseball coach kind of saw through I had some skills, and in fact, that was Coach Dibble, and Coach works for me today, a couple days a week. They're at the hardware store after all these years. Yeah, so that's, and known the family, great family, known them for a number of years. Senior year, about halfway through football season, I broke my ankle. So right before baseball season was to start, I was having to wear an ankle brace, but that worked out all right, and played baseball for the Blue Raiders there, and was lucky enough to play in the Texas High School All-Star game in the Astrodome in 1979. It was kind of unique. My folks and grandmother came down to watch the game there at the Astrodome, but that was during the energy crisis when Iran was having some internal strife, and there was gas shortages. And so my dad got 2 jerry jugs and put them on the full of gas, 5-gallon cans, put them on top of the family station wagon. Everybody drove a station wagon back then. Dad was always interested in old cars, Model Ts, and he had an old Buick. And as a kid, I was always fascinated by that. In fact, look at my dad's toolbox later on in life, and he had screwdrivers. The ends were bent off, or burned off. When I was 2 and 3 years old, I'd go grab his screwdrivers and stick them into light sockets. That was before they had the little caps that you could cover up. And I said, "How'd this happen?" And it arced it and burnt the tip of the screwdriver, but always enjoyed things mechanical. He worked with me on my first car. It was a little 64 and a half Mustang convertible, which was a kind of a neat little car, and it needed a lot of work. And I've taken that today in the hardware store and used those skills. And for a hobby now, I enjoy airplanes, and 2 of the 4 airplanes that I've owned, I've restored them and brought them back to life, and enjoy flying them today. When I got here in 1972 as a youngster, 12 years old, there wasn't a whole lot north of the highway except a little bit of housing. From about Harwood north was pretty open fields. There was Chisholm Park, which was attracting people, but all the homes on Norwood, west of the Chisholm Park, that was just open land. There was a barbed wire fence that went down Norwood. It was just open pasture land. We had Myers department stores here. The mall had just opened up with Leonard's and I think J.C. Penney's at that time. So that was a huge boon for and still is for the economic growth of our community, is Northeast Mall. Pipeline 10 was dying a little bit at that time. Wasn't as popular. Pipeline was very popular in Bedford Euless. After football games and all that, everybody would congregate up to the movie theater, Bel Air Shopping Center, and hang out there for a while, go to the Pizza Hut and the Pizza Inn there in the center. We had Jerry Lewis Theater, which was on Bedford Euless, that had movies for kids there. There was a Piggly Wiggly, a Safeway store across the street there on Bedford Euless. Gibson's store was probably the most popular store for everyone just doing general shopping, and it expanded, and then at one time had a bad fire, and then it reopened, but in a smaller footprint, and eventually went away. The Cragen's Auto Parts, I remember, and also my wife remembers as a kid, going there because both our dads were involved in working on the family automobiles, and that was down on Pipeline and I believe Harrison Lane that we all frequented on a regular basis. Now, I remember I was going to a wedding or something, and I was older. I was maybe 20 or so, and I went in to buy a wallet or buy a belt, and I didn't have my wallet or something. I didn't have any money, or they didn't take credit cards or something at the time. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta go get some money, but I'll be right back." And they go, "Do you live around here?" I said, "Yeah, I live in Hearst." And I just filled out my name and my address, and off I went. And that's how they did business, and that's how business was done years ago, was on a handshake. I was able to receive a scholarship to play baseball, and also on an academic scholarship to further my studies there at St. Ed's. I went to it's a Catholic university down in Austin. It was a lot of history behind it. What was nice about it, I was able to go to a small school that didn't have a whole lot of kids going to it, but then there with UT with 48,000 kids at the time, it gave me all the opportunities to enjoy the nightlife or things that college kids do at that time. St. Ed's was a neat school. I was able to graduate early, so I didn't play my senior year of baseball, so I guess I still have 1 year of eligibility if the old wing's still good, but I don't think anybody's going to pick me up at this age. It's one of the places that I learned to, I guess in volunteerism, was at St. Ed's. I worked with the brothers. Most of the brothers didn't have a driver's license. So, I had one good friend that was a brother, and he was a younger, closer to my age. Most of the other brothers were an older clientele, and a lot of them needed to go to doctor's appointments and what have you. So we'd take them to their doctor's appointments or take them shopping. I had one brother, Lucian. He was 80 years old, and he worked at the Pierce Air Motor Company when he was 13 years old as a machinist, and then taught engineering and mathematics there at St. Ed's over the years. But he would pick up items at St. Vincent de Paul Society and bring them back, and we'd fix them in a shop, and then we'd bring them back, and they'd sell them there for in the store there on Congress Avenue. We also delivered food once a month to the Cloistered Nuns, and the Cloistered Nuns is a group of ladies. They call them the Pink Sisters because they're in a pink habit instead of the black and white ones we're also familiar with. And being a cloistered, they couldn't receive people in on a regular basis. We were able to go in because we were delivering food, and it was. And we would come down into the kitchen and unload, and it was like flies on honey. They'd all come down because they wanted to talk to somebody from the outside. So that was quite interesting. My wife, Sherry, grew up in Bedford, right down the road. We both attended HEB schools. Her elementary and junior high were different than mine, but we both attended Bell High School together. She was a year classification higher than me, and we had a mutual friend that we'd see each other. But during high school, we probably said 10 words to each other the whole time. After my first summer at St. Ed's, I saw her and a couple of her buddies that were roommates at a restaurant in Arlington after a baseball game, and we got to talking there. And then about a month later, I asked her out to go to a baseball game, and from there we stayed in contact, saw each other real frequently. We had a little bit of a drive between St. Edward's there in Austin and Baylor University in Waco. First day was at the Ranger game, and then since I felt like spending a little money on her, we went by the local Taco Bell there on up on top of the hill there at on Pipeline and Buena Vista, and shared a Coke and maybe some nachos or something. Sherry being a Baylor Bear, I would pass through Waco on the way to Austin, and many a time I would pack up my tools. I was the only guy in my dorm that had a box of tools in his room, and everybody knew that, and so they shared and borrowed. But with my wife's car, it was an older vehicle like we all drove, and I would go up there and change U-joints, put new points in it, and had to set the dwell and the timing and all that. But that was all old school stuff that we just did because we didn't bring the car to the mechanic all the time. And because of the way the cars were made, we could still do a lot of that. And, another interesting story there at St. Ed's on a rainy day, a few of my roommates, or one of my roommates and a couple of buddies down the hall on the baseball team thought it'd be neat to what they call penny in myself in the dorm, and they took on the big heavy wood door and the metal jamb and stuffed a bunch of pennies in there, and then knocked on my door, and I came to the door and I couldn't open it, and I hear them giggling out in the hall. So I went to my toolbox and got a big screwdriver and put it in the jamb and just kind of released the pressure off the door, and then about a dollar's worth of pennies fell on the floor, and I slid them up back in on my side of the door, and I can still see Richard Krawcheck from Cleveland, Ohio, crying because I got a dollar's worth of his pennies that he wasn't going to get back. Sherry and I dated for 3 years, and we got married in June 25th, 1983, at St. Patrick's Cathedral in downtown Fort Worth. It was a great day, and she looked wonderful, and I was just tickled to be there. At St. Ed's, I was a business major. I graduated with a BA in marketing. Sherry graduated with a degree in accounting, and was a CPA for 5, 6, 7 years at a local Big 8 accounting firm, and I worked with my dad. We were the snapper lawnmower distributor for North Texas, covered 60 counties throughout North Texas, and my brother Jeff and I both joined that when we got out of school, and we were there roughly 5 years. Dad wanted to semi-retire, not do the daily grind. We bought the store, C&S Hardware, in December of 1988. And Dad worked a few days a week with us there at the store. I was 28, my brother Jeff 27, 29, we just a year and a half apart. And he was going to semi-retire and go to antique shows and that kind of stuff. And a year into it, Dad got cancer. 11 months later, in November of '91, Dad passed away on us. When we got into the hardware business, there was a hardware store in Northhurst. There was one in Bedford, both A stores. We were at True Value at that time. There was a Home Depot that was just opening up in North Richland Hills. That was a huge store. There was a Homer's, which was over on the highway. We had a Payless Cashways on the edge of Hearst and Colleyville, and we got into a little bit of outdoor power equipment, the lawnmowers and all that, so kind of gave us a little bit of a step up on them, where we attract different folks going to the traditional means. So the city's grown, so has the competition. We have a Lowe's now in our community, a closer Home Depot. We have a Super Walmart, a Super Target. There's lots of different competition from coming around, but we're lucky we have done well in the hardware business, which has given us the opportunity to give back to the community. We're very active in the community, sponsoring church organizations, school programs, whether it be the sports, basketball, football, cheerleaders, Raiderettes, soccer, both girls and boys. One of our favorites is the Santa USA program, which flies Santa out with Rudolph and a bunch of reindeer and elves that go to all the elementary schools in the HEB school district. Now they've expanded a little bit and see a few nursing homes and a few other venues that they feel could benefit from their mission. That's a wonderful program, and we've been able to be involved in that for the last 25 years. And my kids, they were real young when they started, and they didn't know Santa didn't come in a helicopter. You know, all the other kids thought it was a sleigh, but he came to the store in a helicopter. So that's always a neat thing to experience every year. I started as a volunteer with the HEB HEB ISD school district, doing adopt a school program where we would help different schools. Our main one was Shady Oaks. We were also at Donna Park. We put in a garden in the back for the handicapped kids there, so they can use that, and then also all kids were able to participate in that. Shady Oaks, early in the beginning, we donated bicycles and boom boxes at the time for perfect attendance. You know, they do a drawing and what have you. I was on their campus improvement and advisory committee with them for a number of years, and that kind of led me into other things that I started with the city. Roughly 20 years ago, I had a gentleman that was involved in the development of Hearst government. John Pistick came to me and asked me if I would be interested in serving on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And that was a board that, first board that I got on, and very interesting board. I'm very interested in the history of our community, and I'm also interested in the future of our community. Hearst has lots of opportunities and have done extremely well in the past on how they progressed with those opportunities, and it's neat to be involved in watching those opportunities unfold for us in the future. One of my biggest drives on the Economic Development Advisory Committee is Southeast Hearst. That was, where I grew up and hung out, if you would, after the high school football games in that Bel Air Shopping Center. That is a very important part and a piece of our community. We have North Hearst, we have the mall, we have Centralized, and we have Southeast Hearst. Great to see young families moving into those homes, and we need to use either monetary or other means and work with developers to expand that area to help attract more folks. Northeast Mall was built around 1970-71, and the owners of that property were the Matzner family. In fact, their rock home is still on Pipeline, and they were good friends with my mother and dad. And they would go out to breakfast together with them. And very, very nice, very humble people. But little things like that are always neat to me and always interesting of how'd that happen, or why is that there, or building over on Bedford Euless by Cavender was a chicken shack with a chicken on top of it at one time. It was Jeans Jeans. It was a jean and shirt place that high school kids went and got their bell bottoms in their shirts. And after that, it was a photography studio. So it's interesting and neat to see how buildings change over the years and their uses. One of the real movers and shakers in this community back in the late 60s and 70s and early 80s is a gentleman by the name of John Barfield, who lives just a block away from me. And John just turned 90 years old in March. And he owned from all of Harwood, from Precinct Line to Brown Trail. And I remember as a kid, 12, 13 years old, going to his office on Harwood and asking him to get permission to ride mini bikes. And at that time, you had to have permission to ride a mini bike on private property. And went there in his office, and John's always chewing on a cigar. He doesn't smoke them, just chewing on them. And I can see him to this day leaning up against his desk and asking my buddy and I, what we were in there for, and where we lived. And he wrote on the back of a business card, and I think I went and got a wallet just because of that reason, so I can carry that to 7th grade and show everybody that I got a card to ride on John Barfield's property. But I've talked to him about that story since that time, and he talks about how it cost him a little extra insurance money, but you boys needed a place to ride. And you don't know about stuff like that till later on in life. And that's one thing that we've been able to do with the stores, sponsor kids. Unfortunately, with all these big stores that we get coming into, the Walmarts, the Targets and all, you never see them on the back end of a Little League shirt or in the programs that you're there. That's not their deal. And so the mom and pops that are still left in the community are still doing that. And it's a way for me to give back to the businesses of my time when I was playing sports and sponsored the jerseys or the socks or what have you. Little history about Smith Barfield Park. That's Herman Smith and John Barfield. Herman Smith was working at Bell Helicopter, and so was John Barfield. But Mr. Smith started selling houses right across from Bell Helicopter in Southhurst back in the late 50s, early 60s when Bell Helicopter came to town. And he would make $100 on every house that he sold. Well, Mr. Barfield thought, wow, that's great money based on what they were making on a weekly basis. So he asked Mr. Smith if he could sell a house for him. And he told John, yep, for every house you sell, I'll pay you $50. And then Mr. Smith kept $50. And so that's how they started building in this area, the Smith and Barfield. Also was involved with, and still am, with Planning and Zoning Board here in the community. And it's an advisory board that looks at site plans, plats, and new businesses that come to town, which also tie into the economic development side of the coin, and it gives me the opportunity to see how it all lays together. And then we advise the city council on any suggestions we might have with a particular case, and then they make a ruling on how that is supposed to proceed or not to proceed. Planning and Zoning Board has opened me up to a lot of things that is happening. Different programs that are trying to entice development in different parts of the community. We have a new fire station and senior center, a new Super Walmart, neighborhood store, shopping store there in the Pipeline, Precinct Line area, and we need to take that same development and energy that we've put into that area and bring it to the Bel Air area. Right now there's about a 65% rental rate in that part of our community for homes, and I'd like to see that change and bring people back into the community, not only just renting, but staying there and investing back into our community. The Police Officer Training Board meets every year, annually. We have an accredited police department in our community. One of the first ones in this part of the country that were awarded that type of distinction. And in doing so, they have to have 4 members from the community sit on the board and every year review their training procedures, whether it be in firearms or deadly force type issues, how to deal with the mentally handicapped, training for driving, initial police academy work, and then a continuing education of 40 hours that they have to have every year as a police officer. We review that every year and make sure that they're on the right path. And with City of Hurst and the quality department that we have, it's just a review. It's not something that we have to inject a lot of comments to in order for it to function properly. I've been on the Economic Development Advisory Board for approximately 20 years, Planning and Zoning 15 years, and the Officers Training Board for approximately 15 years also. Things have to change so things don't change. And what I mean by that, in order for you to keep thinking this is the bedroom community that has some nice shopping and all that, behind the scenes things got to be constantly changing. Your form of government, how it functions, how do you generate revenue for the community, things that entice people to come, whether it be the 4th of July party we have down the street here at the park, where we started with 10,000 people and we're up to 35,000 people in about 8 years. Things like that are constantly evolving, and I've always kind of lived by that. And you have to change so things don't change. Around 2005, I had 2 ladies from the HEB school board come into the store, and I knew one extremely well, and one I had met before at a few functions, and they said they wanted to talk to me. Sure. And we went to the back of the store, and I asked them what brought them to the store. They're not traditionally the hardware type, and they said they're looking for someone to run for the school board. They had an opening. And I'm thinking, well, if you're interested in my wife, just go ask my wife. And I said, well, what's your plans? And they said, well, we want you to run. And I hadn't really thought about it. However, I was always involved with my kids in extracurricular activities, whether it be in band or did a little PTA. My wife was always involved in PTA different programs, but went to the different things that they were involved in extracurricular wise, and I thought, yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. I served 3 terms. 2 3-year terms for 6 years, and then the last term, the board asked me to stay on because I was just going to go 2 terms, to stay on because we were in the middle of a bond project. They were involved building a new $46 million career tech building, and about $40 million worth of roofing projects that needed to be done. And being on the board and being also from the background I have, I was the only one that was familiar with that type. And so I agreed to do that. One of the things that attracted me to the board is we had a very diverse board. We had a local minister in town. We had someone that worked for a nonprofit. We had housewives who had been involved in PTA very extensively, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, all walks of life. But I was the only one that was in retail that was a normal business type person involved with those type of programs. And being a business person, I was able to look at things differently from a different perspective. And we were able to save considerable amounts of money because we restructured some of the contracts that we were looking at on our career tech building. We were notified we were going to be installing a new cafeteria, and there was a way for me to just look at it a little differently and be able to save us about $1 million in order to put in that new cafeteria. It wasn't rocket science. I was just blessed with being in a different profession that helped me look at those things. One of the things I'm most proud of about HEB is every kid could have a great education. He's got to put in his effort in order to do so, but the opportunity is there if they're willing to attack that opportunity. We have an international baccalaureate program at both our high schools, which is usually for private schools, but we have it at 2 public schools. We have Suzuki Strings program, which has roughly 500 kids involved playing string instruments. We speak 6 different foreign languages that we teach in our school district: Mandarin Chinese, Hindi, Arabic, German, French, and Spanish. Very few schools have those opportunities to offer those things. Yet we're all still able to do this with a budget and a bond rating of A++, and very few school districts can say that in today's marketplace. We have also our schools have been rated by the Educational Resource Group out of the Woodlands, who take the top 200 school districts in the state of Texas. And with those top 200, that represents 87% of all school districts in the state of Texas. The kids in those school districts, out of the 1,050, HEB for the last 7 of the 8 years is ranked #1 for the best bang for the buck, for the programs that were offered, the grades that were done, and for compared to the demographics that we have for our school children. We've ranked #1 7 out of the last 8 years. Hearst, Euless, and Bedford all talked about going together, but Bedford didn't want to do it. So in 1957, Hearst and Euless, where they touch borders down in the southern part of our community, got together and had Hearst Euless ISD. Well, the following year, Bedford said, "Yeah, we'll play," and so then we started Hearst Euless Bedford, and we, celebrate over 50 years of service to our community. One thing I really enjoy is employing young students from the local high schools or college kids that are still living in the area, going to UTA or TCC, and watching them mature there at the store. We kind of throw them to the fire pretty quick. A lot of them come in, don't say 2 words for the first 6 months, then all of a sudden the floodgates open and they start talking, and so they and as they age and go through school and get married and come back, it's really neat to see them with their young families and how they enjoyed working there, and also to have their parents come back in and say, "Wow, what a change I saw in my son from working here," because he was able to talk to people, and you are forced to talk to people that are coming in the store, working with their problems. A lot of people come in with problems. So here's a young 17, 18-year-old that is now working a problem out with an adult who might not be in a good mood because his toilet's been backed up for a long period of time. So it's a good learning experience for them to have that. And plus they are able to pick up little handyman tips on how to fix the faucet in the bathroom, different fasteners that they will come across, how to properly paint a room, and things that they can use later on in life. I do have 2 daughters, Catherine and Caroline. Caroline is now married and is a CPA in Dallas. She and her husband live in Bedford. They want to be close to mom and dad, but not that close. My daughter just graduated in May from Baylor Law School and is now a practicing attorney in downtown Fort Worth. And we still get together and eat dinner quite frequently and meals. And when the kids were young, we were very involved in bell band. They were both drum majors with the bell band. And it's a neat way to go through high school with your kids where they're not shunning you off, but recognize that you're still an important asset to make the big machine continue to run. Hearst is a great place to raise a family. Moving into a home that's now 6 blocks away from where I grew up, my kids had the same opportunity to go to the elementary school, the junior high, and the high school as I did. Some of the teachers that they had in elementary school were the same teachers I had previous when I was there, also in junior high. As they got to junior high and high school, a lot of the teachers that were teaching them, or even their principal at Bell High School, were classmates of mine growing up and friends of mine. So, it's a generation change. My daughter's first job was with a partner in an accounting firm in Fort Worth who hired my wife, and now he hired my daughter, and he said it was time to leave. That's why we have, so many people here still living in Hurst that have not moved off. If you look at our statistics, we have a high level of people living over 30 years here in HEB because of the community. I lived back in the, the Norman Rockwell type, childhood where kids could go out and play, and mom was at home and not having to work. And I see no reason why I would want to go, anywhere else. Today, I do travel out. I travel to go with my kids. I go bird hunting up in the Midwest. Go to different air shows, and I get to travel on. But I still come back home to Hurst.